Hey, brother, man. A little video for you before I do your edit. Let's take a look at my city because I finished basically my project. So I'll give you an idea where how I've got all my stuff set up. So for QI stuff, that's going to be up here at the top, and obviously I have more of that in inventory, but I've rationed it down to just the same. And I showed you this pattern, just to send 3 every season, and just keep a cycle of that. But there's no other, I don't have any other ascended QI stuff in my city. The only purpose for any of these is for the QI boost, but the buildings themselves are not super efficient when they're not ascended. Like the Royal Carriage gives 110 forge points when it's ascended, but the base version, the non-ascended one, is kind of junky on attack, pretty minimal forge points. So there's really no point in having more of those in your city than you need, just for the QI boost that you're after. So that's it for that. And then pretty much everything else in the city is dedicated to FSP kits. Celtic Glassworks, Ecos, all these Emberfang things, right? Yeah, so we talked about, okay, we want Yukis for population. We need a few things for QI boost, a few things for population, but then everything else in the city is going to be FSP kits, right? Or attack. And when it comes to attack, we're going to go for the most efficient attack buildings that we can get, right? So my little project towards that end is pretty much complete at this point. I'm just replacing a few, like the Opus things are a little more efficient than the Queens, so I'm just kind of gradually replacing stuff like that with slightly better versions, but it's not like a complete overhaul anymore. Makes sense? The problem with the extreme FSP, so I'm getting about 30 FSP kits a day right now, which is awesome. So there's, escutcheons, a ton of the Emberfangs, obviously a bunch of Jesters left still, and then I think I have 23 Ecos, I think, maybe 24, I don't remember, but plenty of them, obviously. The problem with the super FSP oriented city is how much attack you lose. My forge points is actually still at 23,000 with no Forgotten Temple or orbs or anything like that. Just from the Ecos itself is at 23,000, so plenty of forge points. But losing the attack, right? Because Emberfang is terrible on attack. It's a 3x3, and the attack is absolutely terrible on it. And I've got a fair bit of my city dedicated to that, obviously. So in order to make up for that attack, we really do need to find the most efficient attack buildings. And there's a handful of things in your city that don't give FSP, and they don't give a whole lot of forge points. So unless they're giving a bunch of attack, there's no reason to have those. So I'll go through and pull all those out for you, and we'll make a game plan there. I think that's it for my city. Let's jump back into yours and figure out what we need to do. So here's kind of a good comparison with what I'm talking about with attack. Just the Crown Regents. This one is the Ascended thing, so we'll come back to that. Just the Crown Regent, though. Pretty decent building, 100 forge points, pretty decent attack, but it's huge. It's 30 squares. So for 30 squares, you can also build 2 4x4s, so like a Yuki and a Colossus, and that would be 32 squares, so about the same real estate. Obviously the Yuki needs a road, so it's a small variable there, but pretty close comparison. And so we're getting 100 forge points here, but we're actually getting, what does that come out to? It'd be like 107 forge points from this pair. Not quite as many goods off the Colossus, but way better attack as a group. So I have 2 of these planted in my city, but I have enough for 6 of them. I've just only planted 2 because they are huge, and I really don't want more than the 2 of those. The 2 that I have is just enough of the QI attack that I need to get through level 12, so I don't really need more attack than that. No QI benefit from that pair. So that's the only reason that I have the 2 of those planted. Otherwise, pretty comparable on forge points. but way higher attack as a group. So with that in mind, for normal daily collection in an eco city, we do want to maximize our attack because we're losing so much of it on the ecos, right? And then at some point, when we want to dump all these FSP kits that we're generating and really rack up the forge points, that's when we would store some buildings like this, right? Which don't give any forge point boost. It's just generally better on attack. Okay, we're going to store those for a couple weeks and rack up the forge points with something like that, right? Lose a little bit of attack, but rack up the forge points that way. Makes sense? I did go through and assemble everything from your inventory, and I guess before I get into that, get this guy finished, the Fjord Storm Harbor, the Golden Upgrade Kit. I would just FSP the dock thing, because you'll get 5 fragments per day. I would just FSP that with Blue Galaxy until you get the Golden Upgrade. Just get that done, because this is where you get the Emberfang kits from. So the sooner you get this to gold, the faster you can produce those Emberfang kits. Just on a side note there. Anyways, I did assemble all your fragments. It looked like you haven't done that in a while, so I don't know if you were intentionally keeping them disassembled, but just for your information, I did assemble them. We have enough eco things to finish your eco project, so I'll get that done for you. You also have a bunch of these GE trinkets, and this is 3x2, right? 95 of 95 red. That's where you're going to make up the attack that, the appeal on something like these Crown Regents, where it's 120%. Seems like a great deal. But when you consider it's a 5x6 compared to a 3x2, that's giving 95 over 95. And then the tail end of those, I don't know where they are, but I added them in here. Yeah, there you go. If you want to supplement the blue, there's a 2x2 that's giving 40 over 40. A couple things like that. The Terrace Farm is actually pretty badass too. 3x3, and it's giving basically the same attack that you're getting off a Crown Regent. And it's, or a 3x4, sorry, but it's a third of the size. 110 forge points, plus it gives the recharge for QI. No QI attack boost, but I don't know how much of that you actually need, like I said. So a couple trinkets like that that'll actually really maximize your attack ability. These Neo Shrines are pretty badass. 3x3, 82 forge points, ton of attack. So things like that is what we really need to maximize. Let's see where your attack stats are at, actually. You're actually higher than mine. But like I said, I'm producing probably a lot more FSP kits than you. Yours are a fair bit higher than mine, but we can continue to get them even higher without sacrificing the FSP part. There's a little bit of inefficiency in the roads, and I think it's just from things that you've added since I worked on it, and you just kind of found a spot for them and plugged them in. So I'll go through and clean that up a little bit. For the most part, though, the stuff that needs to go is going to be like these nightmare boxes. Let's check your store kits real quick. Because if you have enough store kits, I would start chipping away at those a little bit. Yeah, I think you're good on the store buildings now. So yeah, we can start chipping away at those. Same thing with the Holly Haulers, unless you're actually using them for the Ascended ones for the QI benefit. There's really no reason to have the base Holly Haulers anymore. The only purpose for those was the store buildings and the supply rushes. Let's see how you're doing on the supply rush. So over the 6 hour, you've got 876. That's plenty to start chipping away at the non-ascended ones. The ascended ones still give the 6 hour supply rush things. So as long as you are using these for QI, you'll get plenty of the store items and supply rushes from those. And there's really no reason to have the non-ascended versions anymore. Better to replace with something like the Neo Kiosk. You do also have a metric fuck ton of these. I would recommend the Neo Tactician's Tower or Sentinel Outpost. I'll let you pick that, but I'll make space for these. This is going to be the most efficient attack and forge point per tile out of anything in the game, pretty much. So on a 4x4, that would be 160 forge points. And what's the attack on that? Like 320%, 320 over 320 on the attack. So per tile, this is your best bet for forge points as well as attack. So you have a bunch of those. The per tile, like I said, that is going to be the best in the game. So in other words, don't use these selection kits to make something like a Neo kiosk. Just use your Neo kiosk kits for the Neo kiosks. But the general selection kits, I would use all of those for Neo Tacticians towers. So let's see. We're good on population, obviously. 1.2 million is plenty. So you'll be able to plant some orbs when you do decide to do a forge point month. You know, you'll have plenty of population for that. So I think the priority right now is to get rid of some of the less efficient per tile buildings. Like Neo Plaza was pretty great when it came out, but a 3x3 that gives, 40 over 40, essentially 16 forge points, compared to the Neo Shrine of Knowledge giving 132, same footprint, 3x3. That's only GVG, but 132% with 82 forge points. So the Neo Plazas, the Neo Rotundas are getting phased out. And that doesn't necessarily mean replace that with more Jesters. It just means that we need to consolidate your roads altogether. I think that's about it for now. Let me get started. And Glemdrake Riders is another good one. 35 over 35 both. Pretty decent back when it came out. But there's way better options out there now. 25 forge points. Something like the Neo Kiosk is going to be a better replacement to that. 42 over 42 both, 36 forge points and a fair bit smaller. So just kind of phase out some of the mediocre hardware and replace it with the creme de la creme. AI core I think you should delete. I'll leave that up to you, but like I'm sure that you have plenty of goods to give your guild if they needed it. That would be my recommendation, but I'll let you decide that. So, I think that's it for the video. I'll come back and do a follow-up after I'm done with the edit, but I'll talk to you soon, bro. Bye. Hey, bro. Roads are done. You're gonna dig this. I finished reorganizing. I just gotta put everything back together. I'm gonna get rid of nutcrackers because you got plenty of mass aids, store kits. We're gonna start getting rid of those. Some of the haulers, and then some of the less productive road stuff. Some of the blood lilies will get moved back in, but we'll get rid of a few of those as well. You do have one more expansion from QI, which I'm going to put right here, and you're going to like it. So that's just that's the hand that you're dealt. So couple things. We're going to get rid of some of these Celtic taverns. I do recommend deleting your AI for a lagoon thing, and I'll show you how that would look, but I would recommend that. So, alright, I'll keep you posted. Alright, my man, all wrapped up. Pretty big jump on the attack side, so that's cool. Didn't do much in terms of FFP. I just finished upgrading your eco sanctums, and then I did add another lighthouse. This one is just the silver, so be collecting this with Blue Galaxy just to get the golden upgrade kits for that. I think it started in your fragments, so just get that one done, as well as the Fjord Storm thing, get that up to the gold guy. I did try to group some likely Blue Galaxy candidates just to where they're easy to access. Added a few more of the Neo Opus as well as Neo Kiosk. I'll kind of come back to that, but I did group your QI ascendable stuff as well, just so you can, there's two groups, there's one group right there and then the other group right here, just so you can kind of easily identify what is able to be upgraded. I might actually shuffle that a little bit more just so it's a little cleaner. We'll figure that out. Serpent things are pretty badass. So there's the gold one, silver one, and then you have another one tucked back behind that Yuki tower. Right here. These, they have an extension for each of them. I didn't plant those just because but you have enough for 4 of the silver ones and 2 of the golden ones to match the setup that you have currently. There's blue and red though, so whichever way you want to go. But just use the selection kits to plant oops, the tail, whichever tail you want. This one is the selection kit. And then use the silver and gold upgrades to pair it. Those are kind of weird. They do have to go left to right for some reason. So the extension has to be to the right of the building. So like you wouldn't be able to do it coming this way for some reason. You do have to have the tail end going to the right, which I think is kind of silly. But you have 4 of those set up, and that's going to help your attack quite a bit once you plug in that little extension. Road connected, frontier, as well as obelisk. Just plug those into this spot as they become roadless. The harvest hub you could probably store at this point. I think you're good on the supply rush kits. Neo kiosk, I would continue storing these haulers. You don't really need the store kits or the supply rushes anymore, so continue storing those haulers. The lindworm thing is also not very good. 21% attack, 16 forge points compared to the kiosk. 42% attack, 36 forge points. So I'd store the lindworm things as you get more of the kiosk buildings. Also planted terrace farms. You got 2 of those. Pretty nice attack. Plus the 110 forge points on the 1-day timer. Those are just on 1-hour timers now. Same with all your checkmate squares. Those are on 1-hour timers. I'll let you set it however you want when you get back in the game. I think you have what is that? 14 of these. I think that's kind of overkill. I have 12, which is honestly overkill as well. I would kind of whittle that down to maybe 10 and start replacing these with the Neo Shrines of Knowledge. That's kind of why I grouped those down in that little pocket there. I mean, with supply rushes, you can get away with 10 production buildings and be able to finish whatever. The nice thing with the checkmate squares is just the attack ability, and the Neo Shrine is only GBG attack, so you lose some normal attack, but the 82 forge points is worth the trade-off, I think. Let's see, what else? Oh, AI core. I would recommend deleting that and replacing with another one of these lagoon things. Those are pretty badass. Let's see, what else? Oh, I did plant another villa thing, just the non-ascended version, but just another villa. Also made room for another eco if you want it. So just store the nightmares plus the 5x6 there. You don't really need the population anymore, which is the only reason why we kept the Celtic Tavern. I think the last time was just for population, but you don't really need that anymore. So room for another eco if you want it. Let's see. I think I'm definitely forgetting something. Oh, links up here, obviously. Oh, the whole purpose of getting this to the gold is to harvest the fires of whatever selection kit, and those will give you the Emberfang totems, finished special kits. I really like those. I've got 30 of them, and I'm probably going to print more. I dedicated all my Blue Galaxy charges to that for a couple weeks just to print a bunch of them. I'm probably going to actually delete Blue Galaxy again just for the purpose of printing some more of those. So with 30 of them, I usually get around 7 or 8 of them because it's a varied production. It doesn't always give you FSP, so there's a possibility of giving FSP, or I think it's 1-up kits or something. So it's not always guaranteed to be FSP. But out of the 30, I usually get 7 or 8 that do hit FSP, and it's 20 fragments per hit. So if I get 8 that give FSP, it's basically, what does that come out to? 5 store kits, or 5 FSP kits, which is equivalent to 50 jesters. So the footprint, the FSP production per tile is way more efficient than jesters. So I do recommend getting some more of those. And the easiest way to do it is probably to use these magnum opuses, since it's already grouped into a column of 3. And you would have to do it in a pair like that, but then store the Colossus. because you need to be able to convert this Colossus space into something 4 tall. But then that'll break down into something 3 tall for the Emberfang totems. That would be my recommendation. I planted 2 more of the Colossus today, and stored some of the haulers, because like I said, you're good on store kits, so you might as well capitalize on the goods and the forge points in the attack now that you got your store kits under control. But that would be my recommendation, just to up the FSP thing. I assume that you planted all of your sailmakers. I didn't actually check that. I assume that you planted all of those that you had available, but if you did not, probably store some Neo Kings or Queens. I prefer the the Neo Queens. Obviously, I've already stored all my Neo Kings, just because no one needs space up goods, but the Titan goods still come in handy. So I think that pretty much covers it. I'm gonna pause it real quick, make sure I didn't forget anything. I think that pretty much covers it. It doesn't really matter. Your efficiency is probably gonna drop. You were at 121 when I started. Your efficiency is probably gonna drop, but I stored a bunch of those blood lilies, and there's still a few left over. But fucking 4% attack with 2 forge points. The only thing it's good for is giving the appearance of efficiency, so you could store a jester and pack that corner with 1x1, and on paper your efficiency is going to be better, right? But in reality your production is, and we pack this side with 1x1 as well. On paper your city appears to be more efficient, but your production is going to suffer because you're losing the FSP from the jester. So, and that's the issue with the fake efficiency that I've told you about before. This road pattern is determined by the ecos behind it. So it's not like it's not like packing that corner with 1x1 is going to actually change your road structure, because the road is determined by the eco behind it, like I said. So whether that's packed with a 1x1 or not is irrelevant to your actual road design. So on paper, it seems like it's less efficient, but in reality, it's the same efficiency, it's the same road consumption. You're just getting FSP kits instead of this bullshit. So your efficiency probably is going to drop by a couple points, but your production is going to be better now. So I think that's what matters more. I think that's it, bro. I can't really think of anything else. I stored pretty much all your nightmare boxes except for those 3. Few of the pagan things, all of the Neo plazas and stuff I stored. They're not as efficient anymore as something like Neo kiosk or something like that. So I think that pretty much covers it. Just make sure to do these little extensions for the serpents. You got 4 of those. Get the gold for both of those, and then print another eco if you want it. I think you have 3 kits towards the next eco. I think that's it, bro. But if I think of anything else, I'll shoot you a Discord. So talk later. Bye. I did forget something actually. Orbs. When you get to the point when you do want to plant more orbs and more villas, store buildings that cannot be rushed. So do your first collection as normal. But then if you're using like a finish all or something like that and you really want to capitalize on that, go back through and store all your Neo Colossus, the GBG towers, things like that, because you're going to waste your finish all special on those. So store those, plant the orbs, and the Ascended Orb can't be rushed either, but it's going to boost everything else in your city at that point. So that would be the right way to do that. Because, yeah, like I said, either way, that 4x4 real estate is not going to be instant finished. So you might as well use that space to at least boost the rest of the city that is getting instant collected. Does that make sense? So that was the last thought. Talk to you later, man. Bye.